Hello, my fibromyalgia friends. Hello, hello. Welcome to a live brainstorming stream today. I am Melissa Talwar. I am the executive director of the Fibromyalgia National Health Organization, formerly the Support Fibromyalgia Network. I'm also a board certified functional medicine health coach and currently a very stressed out nursing student out here in Arizona. Come on into this live stream. This is going to be an interactive one. So I want you commenting. And if you are watching the replay, please comment and let me know what supplements you're currently using to help manage your fibromyalgia. So I purposely put this together because I've been getting a lot of emails asking me questions on what else I can do to help my fibromyalgia. It's a tricky thing to answer through emails because, one, I'm not a medical doctor, and I'm also not your medical doctor. So without knowing a lot of history, it's hard to give advice. So I thought we would put together this live stream to kind of help and share what everybody else is doing, because sometimes we get some really good knowledge. So I put together a slide presentation of various supplements that I've kind of researched on the internet too, to see what other people are saying. Combined it together. It's not a full comprehensive list, but maybe you'll find supplements that you've never heard about before. And again, just leave a comment. Let me know what supplements you're using, what's helped you, what's helping you right now along the way, because we really need good insights. There's nothing like this being put together and organized for fibromyalgia. So it's challenging because a lot of people wait on evidence-based research. And unfortunately, the investment in fibromyalgia is super low. And we're not seeing a lot of this in nutraceutical side of research. So plus it takes a lot of money to do. So if you're waiting for your clinician to tell you about this, you're probably waiting for a long time because they generally wait on more evidence-based practices. So the research isn't there. It's kind of limited. We look at more complementary health research. If it's out there, it's not there for fibromyalgia. So we're really looking at other categories of conditions. So a lot of neurodegenerative diseases tend to study some of these nutraceuticals that we talk about, because we're going to get into neuroinflammation, mitochondrial function. We're seeing a lot of good discussions in the mental health community too. So I think we can utilize some of this information and apply it to fibromyalgia, even though the science is really behind when it comes to fibromyalgia. So that's why I think it's important to have these conversations together. And again, if you're watching the replay or you really have something you're passionate that you want to share with the community, come back, leave a comment on the general video, because I do want to apply to it. I read every single comment and I want to learn from all of you, because I'm learning a lot too. And we're not going to talk about it today, but I really want to put together a video on LDN. It keeps coming up. And anytime there's a conversation anywhere on the internet about LDN, I hear, there's differences, right? Some people really have good responses from LDN. Other people, it didn't work. So we're trying to understand why. But if there's a good consensus without a lot of heavy duty side effects, it might be something to consider. And I just recently was watching an interview on Swing Care. And again, I heard Dr. Andrea Chadwick talk about LDN and how she prescribes it. And she says if it is successful for a patient, it's really successful, and it may not work, but it doesn't have the sedation side effects that some of the other medications have. So this is why we're going to have to learn from each other, because I know I get a lot of emails like what I can do, and it's frustrating. Because for me personally, a lot of the medications that were ever prescribed for me didn't work well and had some major side effects. So I've had to really lean into nutraceuticals and doing everything that I can in other ways because I had such severe side effects to these medications. So I have to do everything in these nutraceutical forms to try to boost, figure out what to do. I've really tried to figure out my sleep, what I can do to take when I go to sleep, because I had such severe side effects with a lot of the medications, like severe side effects of hallucinations, sleepwalking. That was me with a lot of the sleep aids. So I think we need to have these discussions to see what works for other people. And I'm also seeing, hi, Danielle. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to skip the CBD and creatine for this discussion too. But I'm glad that you posted that, because that was something that I was going to talk about, is bringing in experts, because I haven't become an expert in that area at all. I want to have you back to do some more talks and share your experience and your success with any of that. I also can't take any of that stuff anymore because I get drug tested. as a nurse. So I've completely kind of put that out of my head for right now. But I'm interested to see where it's gone. I've kind of taken a gap from that. So here we won't talk about that. And then I know there's other people that talk a lot about herbs, medicinal herbs, which I don't have experience with. I tend, again, to be very sensitive to plant-based anything. So I haven't, but there are people that do, and they have found incredibly like good responses to that. So if you know of an expert or someone that wants to speak, I would love to have them either an interview. We could do a video interview. We can turn off the cameras and just do audio, or even a blog post. So as we update the website, I would love to hear from you. Seth, okay, so this is good. I didn't really include that one because I'm not as familiar. So I'm glad to know that this helps. So I definitely want to return to all of this. And again, I'm going to go through every single one of these comments and just update what's going on. And I'm really excited again to get a license as a nurse so that I can increase my scope of practice. But in the meantime, we can educate each other on a lot of these nutraceuticals and nutrients, what's missing. We can do separate videos because some of them require separate videos on that. So let me actually get to my slide deck here. So supplements for fibromyalgia. So as you come in, let me know where you're tuning in from. Also, share what supplements are working for you. I definitely want to hear success stories, what's working. Please be kind to other people as well. If they're sharing what's worked for them, I know it can be triggering for a lot of people that are struggling. If you have gotten a lot better with anything, I'm so happy for you to be actually able to move out from this fibromyalgia symptoms. So, and Seth, I definitely want to check out because the research is low for fibromyalgia, but the research might happen in other conditions. So it's really fascinating to bring in because the same systems could be involved. So I think that's why we want to learn from each other when it comes to these discussions. I did want to put together a potential survey. I was kind of trying to put together a survey based on medications because I'm really not happy with what I'm hearing about Cymbalta. I'm trying to get a bigger sense of what's going on, but I may start to combine some other treatment modalities. So this is going to be strictly more on the supplements. Again, we won't dive into some of the other modalities that you might use that aren't really like for, so like myofascial release and all that, that won't be here. But if you do find that stuff helpful, still continue to post. I also wanted to just also address nutrition. I've been really digging into like carnivore diet. I haven't been able to explore that because I've been more on the keto side. So if anyone has and finds this really helpful, again, post in the comment. If you're rewatching, let us know what's helping you right now because this information needs to get out there. We need to think differently than what's being talked about with fibromyalgia because it's a mess with definitions. I went through a lot of videos recently and everybody describes fibromyalgia completely different. So it's frustrating. There's a lot of conflicting information, especially even from the experts. So it's up to us. And that's why we want to empower you as patients to do whatever you can to help yourselves at this point, because I don't think the doctors are going to jump on it if the evidence-based research is not there. Hi, Jody. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate everybody tuning in too. So one thing to remember again is that we're seeing neuroinflammation. We're seeing neuroinflammation in multiple studies with fibromyalgia. So we have brain inflammation going on. It's widespread. Again, these studies have smaller cohorts. So your clinician may be like, well, it's still too small. I'll wait for a bigger study. So the thing with this, though, is not just one lab. We've seen this with multiple labs showing similar results. Yes, we're not getting the largest populations and we need to have multiple sites. So basically what we need to do is figure out how to fund a research project where they're looking at neuroinflammation at the brain at multiple neuroinflammation labs at the same time. So we have a bunch of patients that are in the study. That takes money, that takes time. We're not there yet, but we are seeing multiple neuroinflammation labs showing neuroinflammation in the brains of fibromyalgia. If you are subscribed to Dr. Younger's YouTube channel, please go do that because he talks a lot about it. He also talks about some of the nutraceuticals that are mentioned. So he's a great ally. He's a great person to follow and keep up with some of the research. So he does talk about neuroinflammation. It's important to note this because you'll hear neuroinflammation in other disease spaces like neurodegenerative diseases, mental health. They're talking about neuroinflammation and how to approach it in a unique way without using some of these medications. So this is where the overlap begins, and there's going to be a lot of overlap with this. I also recently highlighted this slide on social media. So this slide came from Dr. Kharrazian's talk on pain and fatigue. So he has a really great course. I encourage all clinicians, if you have the time and can, actually, even if you don't have the time, just sign up for this course, learn how he teaches about pain and fatigue. Because unfortunately, again, looking at all the videos, when we talk about sensitization, going to butcher that word when it comes to fibromyalgia and a lot of allopathic care, they mentioned central pain. It sounds oversimplified. Now, here with as we're fibro nerds, right? So we're going to dive in a lot deeper to understanding, and we're knowing it's not that simple. Our bodies are much more complex. So it's not just about inhibiting pain sensors or an amplification. There's a lot more going on. And that's why I wanted to share this slide with you to understand some of these triggers that are actually activated. And with functional medicine, which I've been trained more in, we're looking at some of these mechanisms. So we're not just looking at symptom management, but what's creating this in the first place? Why is there this amplification of pain that these providers are talking about? And there's multiple reasons and things to address. This is why it could be problematic when we're only looking for one medication to cure it all, and why people have such different responses to things, because this is an imbalance that's going on, and you as an individual could have various imbalances more than someone else. So this is the things that we would want to address. And this is where maybe some of the nutraceuticals can come in, because we're looking at inflammatory states. And it's unfortunate that we downplay inflammation in fibromyalgia so much. I think historically they were referring to inflammation in the joints to differentiate it from other rheumatic conditions. But we have to understand that inflammation in the body is the basis for a lot of chronic diseases. So we're seeing inflammation in the brain. A lot of us have inflammation in the gut, just the word itself, gastritis, irritable bowel syndrome. You have some inflammation going on. We know that the gut-brain connection is right there, so you would have an inflammatory response. We just can't get rid of inflammation. So it's built in. Why it's a myth and why it's not talked about is really strange to a lot of us in the community. But taking an anti-inflammatory approach could be beneficial to fibromyalgia in itself. And so, again, when we're talking about prostaglandins, all of these imbalances is what happens in the inflammatory response. This is basic pathophysiology. So if you go pick up a pathophysiology book, you'll understand this. And this is where like NSAIDs come in for balancing all that in basic inflammation and the inflammatory response. Then those of us that might have more histamine responses, this kind of really complicates it. I know I have heavy duty histamine issues. So some people talk about this with mast cells actually being an early stage for people developing some of these chronic illness conditions. Then the free radicals, and like you need these antioxidants. I know you've heard this before. So this is kind of where some of these nutraceuticals can be game changers for people in balancing it out. So I just want to make sure to reference this, that it's a lot more complicated than what it sounds like when providers talk about fibromyalgia. It just is too simple, and we have to understand this in order to actually get to the basis of a lot of the treatment. Now, I am a person that is biased because I do believe in nutrition first. I have trained with Dr. Terry Wahls, who trained me to let's start eating whole foods first, and supplements are supplemental. Now, there's times where you might need to take more supplements. I started out with a lot of supplements as I was starting to try to feel better, but then I moved away from it as I started to be able to concentrate on my meals and what I was eating and nutrition. I'm kind of coming back to that because my schedule is really hard and I'm stressed out. So there's various times where you may need this. And this is why I encourage people to track, do some testing to see what's needed, and also do the pulse method. Because some of the supplements that I do take, I may finish the bottle for like 30 days. I stop taking it. So it's one of those things that I'm just trying to help myself to see if I need it. It might just be to manage some of the symptoms at a certain period of time. So we'll kind of go through that as we go through. And also, various supplements, you can take it in different forms. So I tend to do better when it's a liposomal form, when it's a lozenge. So I put it on my tongue, I chew it. I have a lot of stomach issues, so it probably doesn't even reach there. And then also understanding if your supplements are fat soluble, water soluble, what side of it, when to take it is also an important piece of supplements, because you could actually be spending a lot of money on this and it's not having an effect. And you're probably wondering why. So this is where I tend to lean into more nutrition first, to put, expenses towards nutrition. And I know groceries are really costly these days. So it's a fine balance in understanding this, and you have to try to figure out what works best for you. There are studies out there. There's not enough on nutrition. I wish there were. So we know about Mediterranean diet. So again, this anti-inflammatory approach. But I am curious if you have tried keto or carnivore or something in between. Has it helped? And please, again, just put it in the comments. Let us know. I'm fascinated to see the responses, because anytime I see it on social media with this conversation, I'm seeing some people post about fibromyalgia and it helping them, especially with the gut issues, brain issues. You're not going to necessarily hear this from your allopathic providers at all. In fact, when I started keto, someone told me it was going to be I was going to get ketoacidosis. I was going to get really sick from it. It was never going to work. They were absolutely wrong. And it's helped. It may not help other people. I've heard different versions, so we're all different. Some people really gravitate towards being raw vegan. I can't handle that at all. It makes me really, really sick. So we're all individual. That's why I'm trying to investigate what's working, understanding the mechanisms of why it may work as well. And especially because we're all genetically different, this factors into a lot. So, we have to take what works best for us, but sharing ideas with each other. If you see something that helps or piques your curiosity, I definitely say investigate more. There are some good providers out there talking about it. So let me know if you found someone that I should be following as well. So overall, what supplements are you using for your fibromyalgia? Let's dig in and talk about it. And we want to go through this and just try to see what works best for people. Yes, I wanted to point this out too, because you're doing keto. Yes, it helps. Fantastic. And there's different reasons, because I have to take a course right now in American lifestyle medicine, which is really different from functional medicine for food. I'm doing it for my coaching, like CEUs. But they believe in like whole grains and all this stuff. So I'm trying to move away from my bias to understand. But I think generally speaking, moving away from processed foods, trying to go back to the basics of eating whole food, managing your metabolics, your metabolism and system is generally overarching of what people agree on. So that is good to know. And I'm seeing MTHFR. I'm glad, Jody, because yes, that can be all problematic. So genetics does play a factor when it comes to this, and how you respond to different things and what you need. I think I've done past videos on my sort of genetics on what I learned, and which is why I kind of supplement the way I do as well. So the role of nutrients in fibromyalgia overall. So we know that we have some mitochondrial dysfunction, which leads to a lot of other problems, ATP production, fatigue. We see this a lot recently with studies with like ME/CFS, long COVID. So this is good. We can take away some of the data from that. Mitochondrial dysfunction is in the neurodegenerative diseases. I've learned about it a lot in MS. So managing that is important. We're seeing neuroinflammation, widespread neuroinflammation leading to this pain sensitivity and brain fog issues. There's gut health issues. So this is where you get a lot of immune function, systemic inflammation. Neurotransmitter imbalances across the board can affect sleep, mood disturbances. This just provokes this fight or flight response with anxiety. So it's important to understand there's multiple mechanisms going on. So treating it with one solution is not going to work. You're going to need multiple modalities in order to correct what's happening. And it seems like it's also an endless cycle here, especially with mitochondrial dysfunction, because as if you can't get rid of mitochondria, and we talk about it with mitophagy, especially for the sleep process, it really just affects your whole overall ATP output, your energy output, your fatigue, your health, your wellness overall. So these are critical areas that I hope one day there'll be extensive research in when it comes to fibromyalgia. But right now there's not. We have limited. It's very small cohorts, so that's why people don't really talk about it or take it seriously. We have gone to one direction. I do think sleep is a pivotal part and a big piece of the puzzle that we need to address. So if you can figure out how to get sleep, and especially if you're managing pain insomnia, it's going to be an important piece to actually help fighting some of the fatigue in the morning too. So some of the supplements that we're just going to go through, you've probably heard about these before. Again, let me know what works, what you've tried, because everybody's going to be different. And I'll kind of say maybe some of the stuff that I found with utilizing this. So magnesium is a big one. There's been a lot more research on magnesium and fibromyalgia than really any other supplement. So a lot with magnesium malate, that's the one that's been studied the most, but there is glycinate, threonate. I've used malate more and glycinate. I tend to take a chewable, so I chew on it. It does not personally help me for sleep, but it's supposed to support muscle relaxation, energy production, and nerve function. Some studies suggest it may reduce pain and fatigue. People recommend it before sleep. It might help you sleep. Some people get excited from it. This is where it comes in with Epsom salts bath or like magnesium rubs and creams. They add it in there. So it could be helpful in that form. Then vitamin D and K2, we just had a discussion all about vitamin D. Please check your vitamin D levels and see if you're deficient for supplementation. And again, there's different forms. You can take capsules, you can take tinctures. Deficiency we've seen is very common in fibromyalgia patients and can be linked to increased pain and fatigue. Supplementing may improve musculoskeletal pain and immune function, which I've heard actually from patients before. They raise their vitamin D level and it's really helped them. So it's a factor, I guess, that isn't getting tracked as much as it should. So that's something to look out for. Coenzyme Q10 gets mentioned a lot in research. So CoQ10, you can find more available, but ubiquinol is the reduced form of CoQ10 and maybe it's more suitable for people with reduced CoQ10 levels or those have difficulty absorbing CoQ10. I know I have a genetic deficiency, so ubiquinol is what I need to be taking in order to be able to absorb it better. For that one, we've seen in research that it does help with mitochondrial function and energy production. So that's why it's mentioned quite a lot. So it's something to take a look at. B vitamins, I could probably do a whole video on B vitamins itself because there's so many. There is more research on B12 and B6 because it supports the nerve function, energy metabolism, and neurotransmitter balance. B12 deficiency is linked to neuropathy and fatigue. So that's why there's a lot more research on that. I have heard a lot of discussions on the internet about thiamine, so B1 and high dose discussions. So there's someone that does YouTube videos and they talk about it. So if you search for that, so B1 or thiamine, like high dose, or just do that with fibromyalgia, a bunch of YouTube videos will come up talking about it. So it's actually interesting to do that. And I need to do a deeper dive. There's a lot of research on omega-3 fatty acids. So you get fish oil, krill oil. One thing I left out under here is cod liver oil, which also has the component of vitamin A. So we know from research it reduces inflammation. It may improve pain, depression, and cognitive function. There is a camp online of providers that likes to have you supplement with omega-3s. And then now there is a new camp that does not like it. So again, this is really confusing. It's hard to understand when it comes to this. So if you have a doctor that you can talk to about this, you can address this. And please know before I say this, before you start taking anything, look at what you're actually taking for medications because there is stuff that's contraindicated. It will have side effects. You shouldn't take it with that medication, especially as we talk about any of the 5-HTPs and stuff like that. Also, don't just start this whole list. I always recommend with anything, if it's medication, supplements, anything new, start it one at a time. document what's going on. I can never remember everything. I also write on the bottle the date of when I started it, just to give me a reference of anything that I start. So I write it down, what I'm like planning to do. I document everything to make sure that I understand if I have a side effect, I know what just happened, what I changed, and I can go from there. So again, there's going to be a lot of conflicting information on the internet. If you follow someone in particular of a medical doctor, they'll probably lean towards whichever side that is. So it's just something to consider. I do like, again, Dr. Younger, who does talk about some of these nutraceuticals that I'm about to talk about, and he's trying to do research to help. So there are certain people that are into this. You'll probably find more functional medicine providers or naturopathic providers who are more familiar with supplements. Maybe some allopathic care have gone into this more because it might help people with the generalization and everything that we've learned, like with vitamin C and zinc. But generally, it's more naturopathic providers or other providers outside of this of allopathic care that'll probably talk about supplements with you, or at least be more knowledgeable in how to administer. Other supplements you may hear about is curcumin. So this is a potent anti-inflammatory. It has antioxidant properties. It may help reduce pain and stiffness. If you've tried any of these in different forms, please post a comment and let us know what's worked for you. I know some people use turmeric in their cooking, so this can be another way to get those. All of these have different forms and different reactions. Some people do not react well to curcumin as well. So keep this in mind. Everybody is going to be different before starting this. Probiotics comes on the list quite a bit for gut health. It can help with inflammation and immune function. But again, if you have a lot of histamine issues, I've heard probiotics and certain strains of probiotic can really set off that histamine reaction. So, be careful. It's the same thing with like fermented foods in that sense. But I use a different strain. I use something from Seeking Health, probiotic histaminics. I don't use it every day. Kind of watch those. I was into like the kombucha thing, but I noticed it was really sparking my histamine. So sometimes you may have to watch for that. You may have to leave that out if you don't need it. There's different ways to get prebiotics, probiotics, even in food. So you might want to try that first, because I know some of these can be quite an investment. Another area to consider is digestive enzymes. So these will break down certain aspects of what you might need to digest, especially if you have a slow gallbladder or pancreas, or you don't have a gallbladder. So you might want to take a look at some of the digestive enzymes. There's a variety. Some of them come together. Some of them are HCl, which might actually help with some of this GERDs. It's more of this naturopathic method that you might want to take. And I'll include more resources in this as we go along, because it can be a lot. And again, the lack of research for fibromyalgia, there's a lack of research in this whole area for fibromyalgia. So you're really going to have to look at potentially chronic pain might have some, but you're really looking outside the box in other fields to really see if this could help and understand like why it might help, because so many of us have IBS symptoms. Melatonin is another thing that might be helpful. Again, there's camps that believe in melatonin, and there's another camp that just says don't take it because it'll affect your endogenous form of melatonin. We need sleep. So if this helps you regulate your sleep, it's important. It also might even reduce pain sensitivity. It also is known as an antioxidant, so that's something to keep in mind. D-ribose supports ATP production and reduces muscle fatigue. If anyone's had success on this, please let me know. I know Dr. Teitelbaum has his SHINE protocol. I would love to know more if that's been successful for anyone, because he talks about this D-ribose in different forms, and to see if I couldn't handle it. It gave me really bad headaches, maybe because it's a sugar. And at the time, I was really, really struggling with my sugar and trying to balance that out. But D-ribose does come up. Is some research, and I know Dr. Teitelbaum has that as part of his conversation. I need to look more at his SHINE protocol. If anyone has done it before, please let me know. It'd be interesting to do more research. Again, there's a lot of information out there, so it's trying to see what works. Vitamin C, we all kind of hear about vitamin C, especially for immune support, but it's also essential for collagen synthesis, connective tissues, which can often be painful. It's powerful antioxidant. I use it in conjunction with glutathione for immune function and oxidative stress. I've never investigated, but I've always been curious about doing like IV doses of vitamin C, higher dosage. But, with vitamin C itself too, just like what I forgot to mention with magnesium, if you take the citrate, if you go up high enough for vitamin C, it'll help you go to the bathroom. So if anyone has constipation issues, this could be a natural form. So magnesium citrate and stuff like that is something that you might want to consider for natural. Zinc, we hear a lot about zinc for fighting off, giving us this immune support. It's also good for thyroid function. Same thing with selenium. So we see this with thyroid function. And again, your body needs an even balance. So if you're taking zinc, also just remember you need an even balance with copper. There is a doctor that talks about copper zinc balance quite a bit. I've also heard within Alzheimer's, the zinc copper balance. So that it is something to keep in mind because a lot of foods tend to have copper. So you might have an imbalance of zinc. So you might notice some of that. Some people can take zinc without any stomach issues, but keep in mind zinc may affect and give you GI discomfort. But your doctor probably may know about zinc and vitamin C at least. Selenium comes up with thyroid support, so it's a little bit different. Another one that I didn't include was iodine. I just learned from Dr. Wahls to eat some like seaweed to help with some of that too. So that might be an issue. Some people believe in the iodine on the thyroid. Alpha lipoic acid. So now we're getting into some that you may not have heard of because of the limited information and study out there. Again, you might hear from the functional medicine provider and naturopathic provider on this. So alpha lipoic acid, you might see in some of the mitochondrial energy, but it's a powerful antioxidant, might help seen in some other research. It's shown to show support for neuropathic pain and inflammation. It does support mitochondrial function. So this is why it might be a benefit for fibromyalgia symptoms. Acetyl N-carnitine. So this is helping with energy metabolism and is seen to maybe help reduce fatigue, mental fog, and pain. Some studies suggest it could improve mood and nerve function. So there's a lot out there that we could try. And that's why I just caution you, you can't take all of this. There are versions that I've heard some videos where there are combos of this. Designs for Health is another company and that I utilize and go to with formulations. And there is a video out there too with fibromyalgia. And someone said they got a lot of help from their mitochondrial NRG, which is not the first time I heard of that. So it's a combination of mitochondrial support within that supplement. So it takes a lot of investigation. And this is why it's so overwhelming. I wish doctors were more trained in this to help people, but we're kind of training ourselves as we go through this. And that's why it's just good to share. If anyone knows of anything else, I mean, this is not a comprehensive list at all. And Dr. Salebi in the conference, and I'll link to that in the description, he goes through some of the supplements he uses. He also talks about LDN. He talks about some of the CBD he uses. So I'll make sure to link back to that video because he talks about other treatments that don't get talked about much with fibromyalgia. Now, you may have heard of NAC because that is the precursor to glutathione. Some people recommend taking this. They get a good response from it. It is a master antioxidant, so it might help with oxidative stress, fatigue, and mood stability. I actually prefer glutathione straight if you can take it. Some people that struggle with the sulfur pathway might struggle with glutathione. And I do recommend everybody follow. So Seeking Health, I became a big fan of Dr. Ben Lynch with his book, Dirty Genes. And I learned a lot from him. That's the pathway that I used to have behind me in some of the videos you see in understanding how this works. So his company, Seeking Health, has a lot of supplements on there. It's good quality and more affordable in pricing, but they have a lot of blogs breaking this stuff down. And it's a really good resource to understand. And they also have videos when to take these, how to take these, what you may take these for. And he also breaks it down on the website. Seeking Health will break it down as far as mitochondrial support, brain health, sleep, histamine. So that's where I get my histamine supplements from. So I do glutathione. I do liposomal glutathione. Most of the time when I travel, I take it in capsule form. That was a game changer for me. I kind of wish people would talk about it more in fibromyalgia space. I'm trying to understand why it was a game changer. I hear a lot about it in brain health, but it is a master antioxidant. It's crucial for detoxification and reducing oxidative stress. I found it really powerful. When I first started taking it, my brain like lit up, like I was limitless in that movie. So that was big for me. And then also PQQ has been a game changer for my health as well. And so PQQ is also an antioxidant. It stimulates mitochondrial biogenesis. So the creation of mitochondria, as I mentioned, if we're having damaging mitochondria and we're not getting enough sleep, we're not committing to this mitophagy, it's hard to exercise for us. So some of these components, that's what I'm trying to research. How can I best support my mitochondria and create more ATP energy? Because I feel this is a major issue for me personally. I'm trying to do more research in this in fibromyalgia. The research isn't there for fibromyalgia, but it is in other spaces, especially anti-aging of all things, because they're trying to like reverse aging through mitochondrial function. So it's actually fascinating to understand some of the supplements that they're using. And that's what brought me into this space in the first place because of this the nutraceuticals for brain cognition and anti-aging. So in this biohacking space, I'm really fascinated about. But PQQ can also help with energy production, cognitive function, and inflammation. Sometimes people take it before they decide to do movement to see if it helps with that. So it's kind of a fascinating one. There is talk that it may help with sleep quality. I use it kind of to help reduce brain function. Resveratrol. So this is Dr. Younger has a video on this because he was looking this up. I learned about this a lot with the Bredesen Protocol. So a lot of these supplements, I learned about it in the Bredesen Protocol, the End of Alzheimer's book. I've done other videos before. I want to bring it back to that subject because I really felt that that book had a lot of biomarkers for fibromyalgia when I read it. So a lot of the supplements in there, and he gives values. I'm not going to give you values and dosages because that is above the scope of practice for this video. I can't wait to get to my license. Then I'll be able to talk more freely, but a lot of you can look those up too and get an idea. And again, if you purchase them from different places, they'll give you an idea on the bottle as well. So these are all neuroprotective anti-inflammatory effects. It's a natural polyphenol. Again, I'll post videos to Dr. Younger's insights on this because he goes through some of the science of how it can actually help with brain health. And anything else I may find where Dr. Bredesen talks about this too. Some of you have heard of 5-HTP. Again, I want to caution you with this because it does help boost serotonin. It may aid with sleep and mood. So if you're on any serotonin type of medications, just do not take this like that. You don't want serotonin syndrome. So be careful with that one when you're doing that. You will have to talk to your doctor and address that. I've tried that. It kind of worked for a little bit, but I wasn't on any medications because, again, all of those make me have really severe side effects. So, that comes up a lot with sleep and some of the other anxiety issues too. Ashwagandha. So some of these with ashwagandha or rhodiola, I'm not as familiar with. I do have had teas. So these are adaptogens that will help with stress resilience and energy. So if you've had success with them, let me know. Let me know how you take it. To reference, I want people to know that ashwagandha is a nightshade. So if you are sensitive to nightshades, please note that. Because I know that you find it in teas, supplements, and all these things. And really, really look and read also what supplements you're taking, especially when it comes to sleep. So I didn't put valerian root and passion flower in here. I need to do a lot more research. Valerian root, there is like some research in fibromyalgia for sleep. I can't handle that stuff. So I have to be careful when I look at sleep aid supplements that they're not in there in combo. So if you're like me, just make sure you read your supplements and ingredients. I also can't do anything with soy. I make sure that it doesn't have gluten in there too. So I really have to read the supplement list. That's why I have to invest in like different companies that I utilize. So it's definitely something to note. I mean, these are not federally regulated. So that's why also medical doctors don't gravitate towards this. GABA gets mentioned sometimes in the past, I think with sleep. I think it's GABA and glycine to see if it affects. It can promote relaxation, relieve anxiety, and improve sleep. Let me know if you had success for this. I started out with these pharma GABA chews, kind of moved away from it. Might have to go back to that lately. Um, Phosphatidylserine, which I probably brutalized the pronunciation with some of these PS. I've heard this before in certain areas, but it's supposed to enhance memory, focus, and reduce brain fog. Again, there's really limited information for fibromyalgia on this. Nutraceuticals are really hard to investigate. And again, fibromyalgia research investment is super low, and we're in opposite directions. There's still a lot of on movement and exercise. So quercetin, you may have heard of, again, for some of these allergies. It helps with inflammation, may ease allergy symptoms. So some people see it too with regulating histamine. So that's something to look forward to. That you might see it with vitamin C a lot as well. So that's another one that doesn't come up enough, but it might be something you're already using. Additional supplements that I wanted to recognize, which I personally, well, the top two, DAO enzyme. So I use this for my histamine intolerance. What I found from the genetic reporting too is I'm really slow at breaking down histamine. So when you take antihistamines, it's basically blocking these histamine receptors. But for some of us, we don't break down histamine, so we don't excrete it. And this is where the problem comes. So I test out this DAO to try to break down my histamine. When I first started, I would take it kind of all the time just to really manage it, because my histamine issues were super severe. Every time I would eat, I would have a reaction. I'm still sensitive. I've been sensitive since I was a child to anything. Like someone's cutting grass, I run for the hills. I can't be around it. Someone's vacuuming with dust mites. It's really problematic. So this has really helped me with breaking down that histamine, because my histamine bucket gets full really fast, and especially with stress, it flares it up. So I need something that can kind of help me excrete it, because I'm really slow at it. Antihistamines only block it, but that only helps for a limited amount of time. So this is why I use that. And again, there's really good information. So on seeking health and understanding those histamine pathways, he also has the book out. He has a small PDF too on just histamine besides his Dirty Genes book, which I really recommend. I still use MCT oil of brain octane. This was a game changer for me. So I do use it in different ways. There's different versions of it. You might get really bad GI. Don't take too much. If you're starting that, do not take too much. It'll give you disaster pants right away, especially with some of the C8, C10 chains. I did meet someone that tried the brain octane, got really hyper because I think they took too much. So for me, I find it helps with my brain fuel. It also was helping with ketone production, and exogenously to help me. So I've just continued to have that. I wanted to add something new, PEA. So I have not explored this much, but it is coming up, and I am seeing YouTube videos related to fibromyalgia. So PEA, if you search PEA fibromyalgia, it'll start to come up. And there is a study, they've been doing different studies on PEA in combo with things like Lyrica and in melatonin. So that's what's interesting to mention. So PEA is a naturally occurring fatty acid amide that plays a crucial role in reducing inflammation, modulating pain, and supporting neuroprotection. So you're going to hear different things, but it directly supposed to activate the cannabinoid receptors, and it enhances activity of those endocannabinoid systems. So I think that's why they're using it. I don't completely understand the full picture, but it's definitely something to mention that's come up recently in research. And here is the research study. I'll post a link to it with melatonin to see the management for sleep and disability. I know some people use CBD and those things. So this is not that route, but it's supposed to activate some of the same mechanisms without being in that category. So that's why it's really interesting that this is being investigated. It is something to note and look at as far as something to potentially supplement with. I also wanted to mention pregnenolone. So I first heard, and I don't know if I pronounced that right, I'm starting to get tired again. So this one's a neurosteroid that's involved in various neurological functions. It also is known as the mother hormone. It's the precursor to hormones like progesterone, cortisol, and DHEA. So this might show, because it's low, it might show that there's a neuroendocrine dysfunction within fibromyalgia. I first heard about this through the end of Alzheimer's, the Bredesen Protocol, because there is a supplement. He talks about this, but you can measure this with a blood test. So it's low. So it's low in Alzheimer's. And apparently with this small cohort, they're seeing that it's low with fibromyalgia. Again, we're talking about neuroprotection mechanisms and also a downstream for some of the hormones. Now, if you look this up, there's a lot of information to look up. You just search it in YouTube, you'll find different providers talking about this to help support menopause, perimenopause. So hormone, there's pros and cons to it. Again, if you have breast cancer in your family, I think that's where it's not recommended, but this might have a downstream effect, especially for DHEA. And I recently heard a study that was posted on DHEA helping for autoimmune conditions because there might be a deficiency. So I know you can't necessarily target where it is downstream, but this is something that might want to take a look at. In some of the Alzheimer's forums, people that have supplemented with this are finding some mental clarity. So that's why I did want to mention this, and especially because I found this recently on a fibromyalgia particular study. So that's for the slide deck. I want to go through some of the comments now as I go through this. So Danielle says, I didn't realize okay, so PEA can increase serotonin, so that's something to be aware of. Okay, so if you're on some of those SSRIs, watch out. But Danielle, I'm glad you're up to date. So maybe you can fill me in on what you already know as far as PEA goes, because that was something new for me. I kind of lightly heard about it, but I hadn't actually, I was looking at some of the studies. So I've been using ChatGPT AI systems quite a bit. It's been the most helpful. If you have access to any of that, I want to say that it's been a very encouraging system. And it's much more encouraging to talk to than any medical doctor that I've ever found. So I hate to say that live, but I have a lot of curiosity when it comes to all of this and why we're doing what we're doing and our approach. So it's fascinating to have conversations with AI about it, and also very encouraging. My AI system is very encouraging and positive. So it might be something to take a look at. I know Seth has been doing a lot of research there. So it's something that's probably more helpful for investigation since it pulls in a lot of data. Hi, Mo. So good to see you and hear from you. Yes, I am working hard to obtain that nursing license. I survived a really strong batch of clinicals. Med surge is challenging. The 12-hour shifts are challenging, but I'm surviving. The one thing that I do love is the patient interaction. I think some of you know that I started, my chronic pain journey started at 14, but as a kid, I've always struggled with allergies, pneumonia, asthma, growing pains. I had a lot of severe symptoms that ended me up in the hospital. My poor parents had to get me from our school trips quite a bit, and I would just end up in the hospital with pneumonia. So I really have a strong take that if you're in the hospital, making patients feel as comfortable as possible is important. I hate the hospital. I do not like it. As an adult, it's just been, I don't like how I've been treated. But Mo, I'm trying to make the best of it. I actually enjoy some of the pathophysiology of some of the stuff. And my teacher and professor is trying to get me to focus on the nursing foundations, but I've been kind of more focused on patient rapport and making sure patients are okay and talking to patients and learning from patients. As you can see, I love learning from everybody. I have a love of learning. So I just want to make patients feel comfortable because I don't know, does anyone like being in the hospital? So it's hard for me. It's always noisy. You can't sleep. So that's why I want to try to make the best of it. And again, I know my nursing program is trying to beat that empathy out of me, right? But there's a lot of burnt out nurses. It's tough. I know I'm in a situation where the ratio is 4-to-1, which is good and nice considering ratios are not like that. So I'm trying to make the best of it at this point. It's been a really tough schedule with school and clinicals, but I'm glad that I can do this. I wanted definitely continue to do this regularly. I have to update the new website. It's coming. So Rhonda, thank you for sharing too that you've had this since a long time. We're veterans at this. So please let me know what you're using to help survive with fibromyalgia. Again, if people have solutions that they've really found or are digging in and researching, starting stuff, or if you need help on anything, please post a comment. I know it's hard to respond to the live comments in YouTube, just to let you know. So if you have a really dire question or you really want to post a positive comment, come back to the video. It'll be posted on the channel. Leave the comment there because I try to respond, but I noticed in the live stream, because I go back through the comments again to read, I've been trying to tag people, but it's a little problematic. If you're on Facebook, it's much easier. I can reply to. So Danielle is using digestive enzymes. Yes, so I don't have a gallbladder either. So I take it, and some of these too are available to like help you break down gluten. It doesn't necessarily mean that you should be eating it if it affects you. Helps you to break down some of these protein enzymes, so like milk and things like that as well, and just gets that pancreatic juice going. So the pancreas helps with a lot of that too. So if you have any sluggish organ systems, it helps with that. Some people notice it at different points in time. There's different iterations of that. Some combine more, some combine less. So it's really trying to see what works for you. Okay, so you have gut issues with B. Okay. It's good for me to know what people are utilizing, what people take. So you've also done, Jody, you've done DNA testing. That MTHFR. Yes, I've seen my pathway. It's not looking good. I had a ND actually look at my DNA testing report, and she's like, wow, I've never seen someone so red, which means I'm very slow in various areas. And so this might be something that's differentiated between all of us and why we all respond differently. I think genetics does have to play with it. So if you understand your genetics, you might be able to shift different categories. I'll have to go back to some of this discussion and maybe dive more into MTHFR. Um, yeah, there's different systems of why like keto might be helpful. And the reason why I looked at it was to process. I was just struggling being on glucose, like a glucose form of sugar all the time. It's tough. And I want to do videos particularly on what I learned on doing keto. A lot of people try it and cheat. It's really hard when you cheat because you may not be getting the benefits. So, I mean, some of this is good to know. And Jody, do you use any reference to help you with MTHFR? I mean, I go back to Dr. Ben Lynch. He was the first one that I kind of saw with videos talking about MTHFR and what to do and what mechanisms to look like. It's very different for each one of us because I know when we talk about methylated forms, and then some people can't take any B vitamins whatsoever. So a lot of these supplements, some people can't even manage to take. And especially if you have underlying conditions like Lyme disease, a lot of this can spark a lot of problems, especially medications that might be immune boosting. Those can be problematic for a lot of people if it's going to boost your immune system because it might set you up in a flare if you have underlying autoimmunity, if you have Lyme disease, EBV, any of those things. It might spark some more flares for you. So do be careful when you're looking at this list as well. Let's see. And thank you for tuning in. 27 years. Okay, so let me know has there been anything helping? We don't want people to give up in this community. We don't. So that's why we're going to have to help each other. We're going to have to empower each other to get us the information. We don't give up. And we don't give up on each other at all. So this is a community for support when it comes to this. Claudia, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm not on any daily med. Yeah, I'm not on a day. I am trying LDN. So that's why I wanted to bring it in. I started taking it in May. I have no idea where it's working, but I'm surviving nursing school. So I'm not going to change anything. I will go through some of the supplements too that I'm started to add in because I didn't mention it during the slide deck. Jody, taking duloxetine, Cymbalta just joined. So this one is a lot, and I'm sure you're going to get comments. And when you do research, some people find it helpful. Now, I want you to know, to talk to your doctor. It is now known that there is a withdrawal effect for some people. It can be pretty severe. So I want you to know that before you, like, as you are taking this. So some people, there's different pathways to this. Some people have side effects right away when it comes to this, and they find it difficult to get off of it. Some people have side effects and they don't have difficulties to getting off of it. Some people feel better and they continue to take it. Other people feel better for a while, then it stops working and it's really hard to get off of. But there is warnings now about the withdrawal effect. So I want you to know about that. Talk to your doctor about it. Please don't let them dismiss you, because that's a real deal in case it comes up. Not saying that you should not take it, because I don't know. I'm not here to tell you what or what not to do. I do encourage you to do research on this. You're going to hear a lot of different opinions asking that question. So see if it works for you. It's not one of my favorites, I will say that, but it is FDA approved. So the FDA approved medications are Lyrica, duloxetine, Savella, and Lyrica is an anticonvulsant. So it's in a different category, but please, what I can say is get a lot of patient education on it, on what it's supposed to do. I actually have been diving into research as well, as far as some of the side effects, even including insomnia. So keep us posted on your journey. We're here to support you. Depending on what you find out in your own journey, there's resources that we can help guide you to. So I'd be happy to, but I want to stay in touch. Please keep me posted on this, because I know it is definitely prescribed quite a bit. Yes, Seth. So this is AI system. So training your computer. I need to learn how to do this. So massive journal articles. I think once I have more time to actually get more into AI, this is what we're going to do. So we need to stay connected, because I want to see what you're learning and put this together. Maybe if you ever want to get an interview or maybe do a blog post, happy to have you share what you're learning. And we can all learn from each other again. So I appreciate all of you being on here. Before I leave, I just want to again let you know what I've added. So I've told you that I didn't leave a lot of the MCT oil behind. So I still utilize some of that. I am a big supporter of Dr. Wahls. So what I have been doing, I don't know how to cook liver organ meat well, but I noticed that I do feel better. There are different things. I think I shared before, Force of Nature, they have a combination of like beef and heart in the mixture, which is helpful. It's more palatable that way too. If you cook it, it's like ground beef. So you can hide it in like tacos with like avocado and stuff like that. But because my cooking has really like failed with all the schedule, like one thing I did mention was so organ meat capsules. So this is Heart and Soil. They have different versions. I'm trying different ones. I've also been investigating colostrum. This has come up a lot for gut health because I have a very crabby stomach. So I'm trying that. I've been following different people in different spaces just to learn. Again, I mentioned too that melatonin, I take a different version. So for me, like actually taking capsules, I don't feel as much of an effect. So I try anything. Like this is actually a paper that you let dissolve on your tongue, or not a paper, but it's a supplement, you let it dissolve on your tongue. So I tend to do better when I take applications like that. I feel it more advanced, probably because it's not going through my digestion, because my digestion is really wacky. Again, mentioning glutathione, this is one that I've kept on the list. Glutathione, liposomal form, and PQQ is something I've just kept around. I just feel it's really important. I've tried to increase my glutathione pathway through sulfur-rich foods, through nutrition. I still feel like glutathione gives me a benefit. So that's why I've kept it around for a while. Again, my brain octane, I never leave home without this. It's helped me in so many different occasions for managing even some hunger situations. I've just responded well with ketogenic, and I haven't explored carnivore as much as I should. I've been actually craving more meat. I think I mentioned this also in previous videos. For a while when I was traveling, I was taking more plant-based or almond butter type nut-based proteins. Now they're making me really, really hungry. So I feel more satiated with meat, beef in particular. Chicken, turkey don't have the same, but beef, lamb, I feel more satiated by it. So I started to investigate more in like carnivore space, or Paul Saladino's take on animal, the diet type of thing. But I don't think I can eat as much fruit as he does. So I want to do more videos on that. If you already have looked at that, please share your experience. So I like that you follow. Yes. So he's a wealth of information when I found it. He kind of dropped off social media for a while, but Seeking Health still continued to post about information on supplements. So again, what I do have a lot of the histamine line here for the Seeking Health, because this whole histamine product line. So that's the DAO. I take the probiotic histaminics because I've had massive histamine issues. It just was nonstop for a while, and I really struggled to manage it. And taking antihistamines just seemed to make me worse at some point, because I was up to taking, at some point, I was thinking I was taking a lot of Benadryl trying to function in life. So my histamine levels were just through the roof, and I really had to figure out how to break it down. Because I realized studying that I probably wasn't breaking it down and excreting those histamine levels like I should. So that's why I was gravitating towards like other products that wouldn't increase histamine. I tried a low histamine food for a while too. But now, I mean, I can handle things like avocado. So it's kind of weird. I think I just had to really focus on breaking that down and adjust. And luckily it is adjust. I do have spikes though. I'm not going to lie when it comes to all this stuff. So all of this, I did start taking brain nutrients from Seeking Health. I think this has peak ATP, SPQQ, some, pyrophosphate as zinc, magnesium, B12, niacin, folate. I take those on days that I have exams. So it's brain nutrients. Again, this is a lozenge. So on my way to campus, I'll put this in as I'm driving. It takes me about 20 minutes. Put this on my tongue and helping me with brain focus. I basically have gone back to a lot of supplements. I started, did a lot, went really heavily in nutrition, and I was able to maintain that for a while. So I was able to kind of remove a lot of the supplements, mostly because of cost. Costs a lot per month to like keep up with this. And I was doing really well just based on nutrition. But now with stress, schedule, and stress eating, I've had to try to figure out what works, because anything I need to survive right now is what I need, but it is an investment. Some other companies that I didn't mention, maybe Seeking Health, Quicksilver has a lot of liposomal forms. They have a liposomal form of CBD. They have different versions too. So they have their liposomal where it's in a pump form. Again, you might find more impact and you might need less. So in the end, it might be more cost effective for you. But I do like Seeking Health. I used to get from Dr. Amy Meyer's website because it eliminates all the gluten, soy, and anything for autoimmune. Kind of raised the prices. She took out a lot of stuff. So, and just keep reading, honestly, keep reading labels, because I've noticed from different companies that I bought before, they've kind of changed and added some ingredients that I'm not a big fan of. So I always just constantly update, but that's why I tend to rely on things like Seeking Health, Designs for Health. I think you can actually purchase stuff directly. So I used to use FullScript to get some of these with different providers. To some of the things like Apex Solutions, I think I showed you the glutathione, but they have a liposomal glutathione form. You can only get through a provider that can prescribe it, but there's ways to get it through FullScript. So I tried that with one of the providers and I was able to get it. So I know I talk about biohacking. So I look at all those things. I can't afford to go to any of these conferences right now for multiple reasons, cost and just schedule, but I'm always doing research. So I wish I had the money to invest in everything and anything to try it, but I'm very curious on things that work and even in other spaces, especially for brain health, because I know this is what I first started with these biohackers creating stacks so they can concentrate better and fuel their brain. That's what sparked all of this, because of brain health, like my energy just tanking. I still struggle with post-exertion. So that's why I look for things and really target in mitochondrial function to see if there's anything I can do to support it. I know people talk about creating that BDNF with exercise, and you're going to have to do movement in order to make the final play for mitochondrial support. That is really hard. I'm lucky I'm able to walk around during clinicals for 12 hours. So without crashing at this point, but I'm always looking for other ways, because I know we struggle with that word exercise. So we're going to need other factors to boost mitochondria, which I'll get into with other treatments like red light therapy. Some people have really gotten into hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So leave comments, whatever is working for you. Let's dive into other videos too and other modalities. I appreciate all of you tuning in. Again, I'll try to comment. And if you're rewatching this video, please leave your comments on anything that's helping. I'm fascinated. I want to learn from what's working for all of you so we can share with other people that might not be aware. Because when you walk into the doctor's office, I guarantee it's the same formula for allopathic care. We got to change this. It's going to take a while to get research. So that's why we have to empower everybody in our community to know there's other things. And it's going to be challenging because you may walk into your doctor's office and ask about glutathione and they'll look at you funny, potentially. There was research on glutathione for respiratory health during the pandemic. So this is some aspects because as you age, you lower. So maybe there's hope that some people have caught on through some of that, but I'm still skeptical. So that's why we're here for you as a community. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll definitely continue with these lives. Share, please let people know about our organization. We are really trying to get this going with the website. I promise I'll have more information up as far as education goes. So share, comment, and know that you're well supported. So thank you, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Bye.